In the fitness community, there has always been this debate between bodybuilding and calisthenics. One side says lifting weight is the best way to build real strength and muscle, and the other side says calisthenics builds more functional strength because you're learning how to control your whole body. And I've done both. I started with calisthenics, doing push-ups, squats, and sit-ups and all that, and then I moved into weightlifting and did bodybuilding style training. So now I feel like I can give you a fair opinion on both because I'm not just talking from theory. But before we compare them, we need to define what normal people actually mean by functional strength. Because most of the time when people say functional, they just mean whatever type of training they personally like and do well at. To me, functional strength means strength that carries over into real movement. Being able to control your body, move well, lift things, stay stable, and actually use the strength you build outside the gym. So the real question isn't, is calisthenics better than bodybuilding? The real question is, which one builds strength that you can actually use? Hello, I'm Kamal from Coaching PT. Let's talk about functional strength. So what we're going to do first, we're going to start with bodybuilding and then we're going to go off to calisthenics. Let's start with the pros of bodybuilding. One is that it's easier to train specific muscles. Bodybuilding makes it easier to target individual muscles like your chest, your shoulders, your back, or your legs if they're lagging behind. You can pick exercises that directly train those areas, and it also helps with recovery because you can train around sore or injured muscles more easily. Second is that it has more variety. Weightlifting has a much wider range of exercises compared to calisthenics. With machines, dumbbells, and barbells, and as well as cables, you can train almost every muscle in multiple different ways, which makes it easier to build a balanced physique compared to calisthenics that really just have bands. Another one is it has easier progression. Progressive overload is much simpler with weights. You can increase the weight gradually in smaller increments like 1.25 kilos, 2.5, 5 kilos, 10, 15, and 20, which makes it easier for beginners, older people, and anyone rebuilding strength to progress safely. It's also better for absolute strength. Weightlifting carries over better tasks that requires pure strength, like lifting a heavy box, moving furniture, carrying heavy bags, or picking something up from the floor. Exercises like deadlifts, squats, and rows teach you how to brace, lift, and move heavy loads with proper structure. It's also good for weight loss when combined with diet. Now, that's most of the pros. There's some more that comes with it, but I'm just going to keep it short, just not waste our time. Let's go on to the cons now. And one is that it doesn't always translate as well to athletic movement. Bodybuilding can make you stronger and more muscular, but it doesn't carry over as well compared to calisthenics to athletic movements. You can be strong in the gym, but still struggle with balance, coordination, mobility, or moving your own body efficiently. It's also more expensive. You normally need a gym membership, equipment, and sometimes a commute just to train. That creates a bigger barrier compared to calisthenics, where you can train almost anywhere, whether it's in the park or you can just do it in your own house. So if you want to be able to train anywhere, then a lot of the times that calisthenics would be better. Now, number 3, which is ego lifting, can tend to increase injury risk. Lifting weights is generally safe when done responsibly, and the actual injury rates when compared to calisthenics is also very low when done again structurally and in a responsible manner. The problem is that bodybuilding and gym culture can sometimes promote ego lifting, which sometimes people chase heavier weights instead of proper form, and because of that, injuries tend to be more likely. Now, calisthenics also has its own pros and its cons, and to which these pros are, it's free and convenient. This is like the biggest pro that calisthenics has. It's cheap, it's simple, and it's easy to start. You can do push-ups, you can do dips, you can do lunges, you can do squats, planks, sit-ups, and pull-ups with little to no equipment, which makes it much easier to stay consistent. Another thing is it has better body control. Calisthenics is great for learning how to control your own body, using movements like pull-ups, dips, push-ups, handstands, and L-sits require more balance coordination, core strength, and control, which tends to have better carryover to overall movements, which is why they tend to feel more natural. And another thing is they have better carryover to movement. Calisthenics movements normally feel natural compared to weightlifting because you're moving your own body through space. You're not moving weights, you're not learning how to tuck your back and become structurally. No, you're just moving yourself. And this can carry over better to athletic movement, mobility, and general physical confidence when moving around space. Another one, and this might be the most important one, is it simply looks cooler. Like it sounds silly, but a lot of the times it does matter. Being able to do muscle-ups, handstands, planches, or explosive push-ups normally looks impressive compared to the layman, and that can make training a lot more enjoyable. Like I'm actually learning to do one-arm pull-ups at the moment, and I think it's much cooler. That there's not a lot of stuff that's more impressive than something like that. Like I think it's amazing, honestly. One-arm push-ups, when I first learned to do my one-arm push-up, I think it was the best thing ever. It was so cool. I just started doing it and just like repped them out. It was amazing. It just it's more impressive than something like a 3-plate bench, in my opinion. So it just makes me want to learn it more, which is, it's definitely, calisthenics is cooler. That's all I'm gonna say. Some of the cons though are that progressive overload is normally a bit clunky. Progression in calisthenics is not as straightforward as weightlifting. With weights, you can just add 2.5 kilograms. But with calisthenics, you often have to change the whole exercise or adjust leverage or add reps or slow tempo or use weighted variations, which isn't normally the best to adapt to a lot of the times. And this is where weightlifting normally takes the cake. Another thing is that it's harder to isolate muscles. Calisthenics is mostly compound movement based, and that's good for body strength, but it also makes it harder to isolate specific muscles that you might be lacking on, which can make recovery harder to manage. Another one, and this to me is the biggest con, is that it has weaker leg and posterior chain development. Legs are much harder to progressively overload with calisthenics because bodyweight squats, lunges, and pistol squats can be useful, but they don't usually compare to heavy squats or leg presses or Romanian deadlifts or just normal deadlifts or other leg exercises that build serious leg strength and size in weightlifting. Like you can add weights in calisthenics, but like there's like a limit to how much you can add. Like if you're gonna do a goblet squat and have like a kettlebell in your hand like this and just try to squat it, it's not gonna, like, there's only so much you're gonna be able to hold compared to weightlifting, where you can just put a barbell on your back and put as much weight as you want, given that you don't break something, and just squat it. Which is, that's one thing that calisthenics doesn't have over weightlifting. And fourth, this is something that carries on from 3, calisthenics is limited when it comes to loading the posterior chain. The glutes, the hamstrings, the spinal erectors, and upper back can be trained, but it's much harder to load them properly without weights. I also see that you guys don't tend to have a lot of glute and hamstring exercises, which the only thing I can see is Nordic curls, but Nordic curls are not a beginner exercise. It can be very difficult. It took me a long time before I was able to do a Nordic curl, so I don't believe the average person should be able to do it. And because of that, there's not much that you can do. You can do glute bridges, and even so, like the loading is not as good when compared to weightlifting. Like again, you can use bands or you can use a dumbbell, but there's only so much weight. There's only so thick that band is gonna be. They're so heavy that the dumbbell is gonna be, until you just can't really move it around. And plus, if you need a dumbbell to do a calisthenic exercise, you might as well just go to the gym, mate. I don't, you know? See, now you might be thinking, oh, come on, you've been yapping along for like 10 minutes, talking about the pros and the cons and the whatever. Just tell me which one is best already. See, like, just like, give me a minute, let me cook. See, now that you have all the information, it's time to compare, like, which one is actually better. And see, if we're talking about weight loss, it doesn't really matter that much whether you pick bodybuilding or calisthenics, because fat loss comes down to burning more calories than you eat. So the better option for weight loss is the one you can simply stay consistent with. If it's bodybuilding, then do that. If it's calisthenics, then do that. But in terms of functional strength now, honestly, well, it differs. I'd give it to calisthenics for body control, mobility and coordination, and being able to move your body well. But I'd give it to weightlifting for absolute strength, muscle building, and leg development. as well as lifting heavy things in real life? So the boring answer is, well, it's probably both. You use weightlifting to build muscle and raw strength, and then you use calisthenics to build control, stability, and athletic movement. If you care about building a more muscular physique, then bodybuilding is probably better. If you care about body control and cooler skills, then calisthenics is probably better. If you also don't want to pay to go work out, then again, calisthenics is probably better. But if you want a strong, athletic, and look good, combining both is probably the smartest choice. Like, a lot of people make it turn into some kind of fitness gang war and talking about, oh, which one is more functional. But the truth is, functionality completely depends on what you're trying to function for. A powerlifter, a gymnast, a boxer, a construction worker, a swimmer, and a footballer don't have the exact same type of strength. So when someone says this training is more functional, the real question should be, what exactly are you being functional for? Because each type of exercise has its own pros and also has its own cons. Yoga is better for static holds and better for flexibility, but when you compare it to something like powerlifting or bodybuilding, you won't be able to move the same stuff, you're just going to be weaker. A runner is good for muscular endurance and just running for long spaces, but they can't deadlift 3 plates. They can't do a planche either. So really, which one is better? Swimmers are better at swimming, rock climbers are better at climbing. Each exercise has its own pros and its own cons that you get better at. So really, if you want to get better at something, train for that thing, but you're not going to be good at everything unless you train for it. So yeah, that's my TED Talk. This is Coach King. Please like, subscribe, do other stuff that I like, because that's good for the algorithm. Thank you very much. There's supposed to be a video somewhere around, where's my hand placement? Yeah, I think it's around here. Wait, that's my channel, right? Is it over here? The video is on one of these sides. Just click on it. I think it's very nice. I did a lot of work making it, so thank you. Bye.